Hey fellow Les Paul lovers, this is Brian Kahanek coming to you from my studio here in Atlanta. I wanted to give you some under the hood nuts and bolts approaches that I use to play the blues, and it's very simple, quite frankly. It's there's no real mystery behind a lot of this stuff, and I'm sure you guys have tread these waters before, but everybody kind of approaches playing in a different way, and that's really the best part about the blues and music and everything, is that everything is a fingerprint. It sounds a little different everybody. No two players are going to sound the same or approach it the same way. Anyhow, today I've got my 2011, this is a V9 series guitar, which is a vintage collector series instrument based on the Beauty of the Burst, page 138, which is a Honeybush guitar. I think it was a 60 actually, not a 59, but it had a Bigsby on it. And you can see this is just it's a beautiful guitar with a great color. I call this is Honey. And there's been some modifications to it. I changed out the pickups for Shep Tone. I've got the set that they make for me in this. This is basically an overwound bridge and maybe a slightly underwound neck, because I like that articulation in the neck pickup because I use my fingers a lot in lieu of a pick, about half and half I'd say. And also here I've changed out all the pots and everything and put real Bs in here, which does make a big difference, I think. Also changed out the machine heads and put some tighter ratio vintage cloisons on there. Also, I had my buddy Avi Shabbat do the fretwork on this from the Guitar Groomer. He's in West Hills in LA. And also, I bought this guitar used, and the previous owner had gone through and changed out the fret markers on each one of these positions, and he did so, he kind of marred out some of the wood. And so I had the fretboard replaced and the truss rod condom taken off. This is a Brazilian rosewood fretboard. And when the truss rod condom came off, man, I had this guitar for probably about a year before I decided to do it. And when I got it back, it just, the tone complexity changed dramatically. And so I think that when they made that adjustment at the custom shop was a pretty big deal. Anyhow, let's hear this thing. This is the bridge position, and we'll get into some of the scales and things like that. But this is the bridge. Bridge position, neck position. Middle position, great for, all those, the chords happening. So all those licks and all those notes that I'm playing to kind of cruise through there, you start playing through these scales long enough, you start singing with the scales instead of really thinking about where you're at with it. But in order to get to that point, you got to spend a lot of time to get there. And so all those licks come out of three basic scales for me. You got your straight ahead A major scale, which for the most part might sound crazy as used over the 5 chord, because you've got a G sharp in there, which is basically the third of the 5 chord. But we'll get to that in a minute. This is the A mixolydian scale, and this is really where I kind of start off mostly, in the sense that a lot of like heavy metal guys and straight rock guys will think about a lot of their soloing from a minor key perspective. A lot of blues guys will come at it from a major key perspective, and so to kind of it's a different way to think about the fingerings and how you approach where you're going to start your solo. So for that matter, let's start with the A mixolydian scale, and that is basically 4th position here. First finger on my 4th fret, which is 4th position, and you're just going to go through and play an A major scale, but flat the 7th note. So you've got, which makes the G sharp a G. Right there. Dominant scale, basically. So you're playing, the blues is basically, flavors over dominant chords and straight minor chords. Also nines and things like that, but just kind of basically, basically speaking, that is. So that is the first scale that I use. The second scale is one we all know and love, is the blues scale, or the minor pentatonic with a bunch of fun notes thrown in, which is this. And you're thinking about it from a 5th position start point, which is your first finger here on the 5th fret. probably just as equally used as the Mixolydian. Now, when you get to the 5 chord, which is basically get to that 5 chord, you've got a kind of a problem there if you're using the Mixolydian scale, because you now have a G sharp. And so right there you can decide to use an E Mixolydian, which is basically the dominant scale of the A major scale. It's the A major scale just starting on the fifth note. So you've got 3 scales. You've got the A Mixolydian, which you can use over the 1 chord, and really 5 chord minus the 7th note. Now on your 4 chord, the D9 or D7, you can use. I use the minor pentatonic quite a bit there. Right there. So that is how nicely that flows into the 4 chord, and then into the 5 chord. That right there is the E Mixolydian scale, or you can use that is the A major scale, which covers that chord as well. So that really is the basic building blocks of where I choose to kind of what scales I choose to use, and then your fingerings and all your phrases and things like that. That's where the personality and the fingerprint comes in. So anyhow, to kind of play you out here, one more little kind of gear fun thing. I'm playing through my Alan Sear build. It's his 4550 head, which is basically a 50-watt JMP small box approximation, and is a great sounding head. I like big, loud, clean amps. I don't like really channel switchers and all that stuff. I just want one great sounding channel which I can boost up with a pedal. And I've got my trusty full drive 2 10th anniversary MOSFET, which I've had for almost 10 years now, and it's been a real good friend. So anyhow, I'll play you out with some notes here, and kind of give you some ideas, and hopefully these will inspire some of the membranes in there to kind of get things flowing for you. I hope it does. This is starting with the Mixolydian, kind of the A major. We all know that. Right there, coming back down the minor. The 4 chord. Coming back to the 1 chord. Got the 5 chord. Hope that helps you guys out. Cheers.